Are you ready for roll call? Okay. Representative Henderson. Representative Larson. Representative Sherwood. Representative Stith.
Aye. Here.
Representative Walters. Representative Swanitzer.
Here.
Chairman Nicholas.
Incarnation of the sandbox bill that we had a few years ago, right?
Remind me, Mr. Chairman, it seems like we passed that out and the governor vetoed it.
I think that's right.
Is that right?
I think that's right. So whether you like the bill or not, I'm not a big fan of it, but and particularly if I was on the business council, I wouldn't be a fan of it. But I'm just going to the financial impact statement. It's basically 35,000 and then 140 and 175.
It's all administrative costs. There's no direct appropriation.
Right.
Is that correct?
I believe so.
So there's no appropriation with it. These are just going to be the impacts on business council.
So we probably don't even have to consider it.
Just to do pass,
Let's just get do pass. Because there's no real appropriation,
right?
unless we wanted to. Yeah. So any public comment? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. We have a motion on the bill.
Remove due pass. Second.
Okay, roll call.
Representative Henderson. Representative Larson.
Aye.
Representative Sherwood. Aye. Representative Stith.
Aye.
Representative Walters.
Aye.
Representative Swanitzer.
Aye.
Chairman Nicholas.
Okay, let's do 167. This is Representative Henderson's bill. Wyoming Teacher Shortage Loan Repayment Program.
Mr. Chairman, would you like me to give you a brief? This,
So just tell us about the dollars and what this does.
Mr. Chairman, House Bill 167, speaking to the fiscal note, it's asking for 500,000. An amendment during the committee removed the 5% administrative, which I think we need to add in there, and I've made an amendment to that effect for the floor if it makes that far. Just to briefly, the 500,000 comes from an average of the program when it was in effect between 2005 and 2016. The average was around 400, allowing for inflation. I went to 500,000. About 157, 160 people were benefited from the program. There is a 2-year to qualify. There's a 2-year requirement for in consideration that you have to work a 50% a minimum to pay back the amount you're loaned, but you also have to qualify by committing to 2 years of work as a certified teacher. This is opening up the program to not just special ed, math, science, and world language. It's opening it up to anyone, for example, like people who work in schools are classified, who want to get a certified credential, or people who are certified who want to get another endorsement. We have a real significant shortage of teachers in Wyoming, and I think this will be a very good step it forward to reauthorize the program. And I'd ask for favorable consideration. Any questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, my question is, why did you choose to use LSRA funds for this scholarship program versus Hathaway money?
Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the question, Mr. Chairman. I used LSRA because it's raining. I'm open to another source of funding, but that was my thinking. It's at a point where we need to be doing more than, just general type stuff. I mean, and my lack of experience in appropriation maybe is a good answer as well.
So my question, you can be a part-time teacher, in other words, you work 20 hours and that counts?
Mr. Chairman, the process is administered by the Community College Commission, as you know, and they're going to have to update the rule. This hasn't been used for a number of years, so there's going to be some dusting off. Things have changed out and about. And so in terms of that specific area, I think that's a good question. And I don't have specifics, on how the rule, my belief is the rule is going to come out pretty close to the way it was before.
Mr. Chairman. So Bill, as the Representative Henderson, as I looked at this, I was wondering, so it talks about that they need to be enrolled in good standing teacher at the University of Wyoming, but yet it's being administered by the community college. Help me understand that.
Well, our normal process is to have teachers credentialed through the university. And over the years, we have had community colleges, which was added in reference to the standing committee amendment to allow for community colleges as well as University of Wyoming. We have the Bachelor of Applied Science in one of the colleges now that provides teachers. So the principal reason is because that's the main qualification, is to make sure that we centralize this qualification. The Professional Teaching Standards Board, as mentioned, they testified that they have some work to do in getting the capability together to get the information they need for their input to the report you see that's required in there.
Okay, going to the money. So the appropriation is for, it's like $1 million, right?
Biannualized, yes. 500 to the for this year that we're looking at. This 500,000 is specifically limited, as you see there, between July 1 and June 30, 2024. That's July 1, 23 and June 30, 24. And
so what's the duration?
that's the one thing that we took out. The repealer that you see is that we took out the sunset. And that is certainly something that the body could decide to add back in.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move the bill.
Okay, public comment. Close public comment. Go ahead.
Just for discussion, what's the loan? What's the student loan that a typical education graduate has from the University of Wyoming? And how many people do we think are going to use the program? I'm just trying to match that up to the appropriation to see how many.
How does it layer with half of some of the scholarships?
Mr. Chairman, my response to that is it depends obviously on the specific loan that's set up. The rule would provide, I believe, for the maximum and the eligibility criteria relative to what your question asks.
Okay, we have a motion.
Move the bill do pass.
Second. Moving second, discussion. Roll call.
Representative Henderson,
Aye.
Representative Larson.
Come on up, Cody.
Oh,
No, go ahead.
okay. Representative Larson. Representative Sherwood. Representative Stith.
Aye.
Representative Walters. Representative Swanitzer.
Aye.
Chairman Nicholas.
Aye. That's an amendment to the Cody's bill next,
Thank you.
which is 276.
It'll be in your folder.
Cody introduces to this bill and what it does.
Mr. Chairman, representatives, this is House Bill 276, and essentially it requires, if you'll see the amendment I passed out to everybody, a conservation stamp in order to collect shed antlers or horns throughout the state. I think the amendment takes care of the fiscal note. This is something that the Game and Fish already distributes and allocates to folks. Anybody that goes fishing or hunting during the year, this shouldn't impact them at all. The idea behind it is especially in Southwest Wyoming, the out-of-state folks that come in to collect shed antlers and horns and stuff have no means of contributing to our systems here in Wyoming. And I think this is just a good fix for that. Open to any questions.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
So this is not a new, Representative Wiley, this isn't a new conservation stamp. It would be an existing one that we get, just like when we get any other license. That conservation stamp would allow you to collect sheds.
Correct.
Mr. Chairman.
What happens after 12 years old?
I don't know.
Get a stamp.
Get a stamp.
Go ahead. Are
Mr.
there family stamps?
No, it's for each, but if you look through the bill, page, where does it say? Page 3, line 6 through 8, I mean, that's up for the fishing game too.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. How is this enforceable? If I'm driving down the road and the Game and Fish stops me and I have a horn in the back of my pickup, and I just simply say I picked it up on my private land?
Well, Representative
Because the way it's drafted, it's for public lands only. And so unless I'm out actively looking for them, it's going to be, will it not be difficult to prove where I picked them up and prove that it wasn't on private, where I'm allowed to do it?
Representative Walters, that could be an issue. But especially for Southwest Wyoming, if you're out and about and you have a pickup full of antlers, it'd be a good thing to have a conservation stamp. I mean, that can be up for the discretion of the officer in the field.
So in Jackson, the Boy Scouts of America go out and collect and use it for fundraisers. So all the Boy Scouts are gonna have to go get a.
Mr. Chairman, that already is kind of outside and beyond the effective dates and stuff of the seasons. I would assume that could be easily, applicable to where they wouldn't have to have a conservation stamp to do that. Again, that could be up to the department.
I don't know, but the way this is crafted, I don't know if they have to stay inside the language. I don't know if they could do that.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
so Representative Wiley, so say for the Boy Scouts, they might have to get a stamp, but the fee is $0 for them. Is that right?
No, the conservation stamp's $5 if you're a resident.
20. So I would be more than amenable to a friendly amendment to fix that.
So, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
So Representative Wiley, I think that there are some challenges. I think I understand the intent, but I think that there are some challenges, and the body has historically resisted this idea that of getting pulled over and then having a means for search. And so if I've got my pickup's loaded up with horns, and I said, well, I'm just coming up from Daggett County, Utah, and just slipping over and going over to Cache Valley, Utah, right? I could make the claim that I picked them up in Utah and just driving through the state. And so the Fish and Game could then say, we believe you or we don't believe you. So how do they enforce that? And then to your point, well, then that comes back to rules. For most of us lawmakers, we get a little nervous on rules because sometimes they get carried away and we think, why are you so restricting or why aren't you? I think the second portion of that is, your grandparents are here from out of state. They take kids out, they're hiking around, they grab some sheds, some old antelope or a skull that have horns on them. Now they would have to have, right, they would be in violation of this law doing that. And is that the intent, or help me through those 2 points there a little bit, if you would?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Representative Larson. I think for the most part, this is going to be, tailored to how we already do existing hunting and fishing regulations. I mean, you could have a deer in the back of your pickup and cross the state line and have the same issues. That's gonna have to be to the officer in the field's discretion again. And then also if you have a couple of old shed antlers that grandparents and their grandkids pick up, that's different than when you see the season open and the collection that happens, especially in the southwest part of the state. It's a heavily influential, impactful thing that occurs down there from May to early summer down there in our part of the state.
So, Mr. Chairman, follow up. So the analogy of handling it as current game is, if you bring you have an elk in the back of your pickup and you say you shot it in Utah, you have to be able to show that you had a license to do that. If there's no license required in another state or validation for sheds, you may not have that. You may not need that. So that's, I think, the enforcement component that Representative Walters brings up, I think is a little bit challenging. I did not see, if I may ask another question, I didn't see this pertaining to a particular time frame or a season. Are you suggesting then that it would be that the Game and Fish would establish a season and that it would be applicable to, and then any time out of that season you can pick them up and not be impacted?
Correct. And then back again, I mean, you can pick up a conservation stamp, Representative Larson, sorry, you can pick up a conservation stamp readily at any gas station, any sporting goods store, any Forest Service, location. I don't believe requiring a conservation stamp is going to be going too far out of your way, especially, if you're a border state resident or something to want to come and collect shed antlers in the state of Wyoming.
So did you talk to Game and Fish about this?
I have not, Chairman Nicholas, but I think especially with the amendment that I put forward and stuff, it's going to take care of a lot of the fiscal note and how that they would manage it. And I don't think it'll be too impactful to them.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question goes to the rationale for the areas that are specified. For example, west of I-90, there's a lot of good antlers, the other side of I-90 and so forth. Could you help us understand that, please?
Yeah, so it should be drafted that this will cover the majority, Representative Henderson, the majority of the state. If you look at how they have it in there, I-90, Wyoming, Montana state line to Buffalo, west of Interstate 25. So this broadly encompasses the entire state of Wyoming for the majority. That's the intent.
Mr. Chairman, follow up. I had calls from several constituents regarding the applicability of this on both sides of the divide, for example, but also in other areas of the state. would you be amenable to amending, or talking about amending it? Or talking with Game and Fish about their thoughts on where the applicability might be best specified?
Representative Henderson, absolutely. I think there's a similar bill to timelines when the start date starts for out of state, and I believe they amended that to roughly the southwest third of the state. That could be applied to this bill. Absolutely.
So why on that, page 2, Roman at 31, what, why do you even designate? Why don't you just give broad authority to the Game and Fish to do it in the state of Wyoming? And why are you singling out that location?
I think because the Southwest is the most impacted, and then just for how we drafted it, we wanted it to be applicable to the entire state, but like I just told Representative Henderson, I would be more than willing to switch it to that lower 1/3, Southwest 1/3, or however you so designate, Mr. Chairman.
I mean, if you're gonna regulate it anywhere, why not everywhere?
That's kind of why we have it in there like that.
But Mr. Chairman. But you could have just said within the state of Wyoming on public lands, you kind of
So
do
you can
this.
take out all of that and simplify the whole thing.
We absolutely, we could. I think this was drafted the 9th hour of the last day, so.
So, committee, any thoughts on that? So it's easier to do the amendment right now than if we do it before. That's what I'm saying.
Correct.
So we can amend it.
Yes, and I'm fine with that. Mr. Chairman. Nicholas.
So Representative Stiff, do you want to work with Cody and kind of tweak this?
Sure, you bet.
And then, so we'll. Why don't you just sit down and tweak it and bring it back?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to maybe suggest we table it till this evening, come back. I really think that it's important when we give this kind of jurisdiction, Representative Wiley, through a commission to the agency, that we hear from him and that you reach out to him and say, hey, this is my plan. This is my thoughts. What am I missing here?
No problem.
Some of the simplest things, they could come back and say, well, yeah, but, and so I think maybe if you could reach out to them and if we could maybe hear this, have them here.
But still, we ought to have the
Yeah.
amendments ready.
Yeah, start getting the
And
amendment.
we can probably finish it up this evening.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So you want to, it's like some type of provision that talks about excluding nonprofit organizations like Boy Scouts would be exempt, and then make it over the whole state, and then anything else you think we need to do? And then then you could get that amendment drafted, so we can read them this afternoon. Okay?
And there's not a limit. If you have a conservation stamp, you're not anticipating a weight limit or quantity limit. Just saying to participate, you need to.
Yeah, exactly.
And if
Nothing
you
like
find
that.
an arrowhead, you gotta leave it.
I've never found one. I always find them in my garden.
Okay, let's see, anything else we're gonna do this one?
Yes, you have the 2 joint resolutions, 6 and 7.
So what we need to do with that is I talked to, we can go off, because we're not gonna do this right.
So will you do them upon adjournment then?
We may,
Okay.
I would list them just in case.
Okay.
So